Okay, hi Sarah. Welcome to Truehope Cast. Thank you for being with me today. How are you? What is going well?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Perfect. Well, just as an introduction, why don't you just let us know who you are and what it is that you do, please?
For sure. So, yeah, my name's Sarah Meister. I work here in Edmonton, Alberta. I manage a Vitality Health food store, so vitamins and supplements. As well, I'm just about halfway through my holistic nutrition course in school.
Wonderful. And where are you doing your nutrition program?
It's through Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. I'm actually just doing the distance education. I had started while I was on maternity leave, so it was nice to just kind of fit it in wherever I could. Yeah.
Awesome. And do they cover a lot of information about supplements? Are there courses based on that as well?
They kind of so far. So one of our last unit is actually they touch on more herbs and supplements, but they kind of throw it in here and there throughout the course. So it's actually been so helpful to work at Vitality because it goes hand in hand with school, and I'm it just helps me understand it way better. So they do touch on it a little bit.
Yeah, you should be able to just walk around the health food store and do some studying on the ground.
That's what it almost feels like sometimes. Like I get paid to study, so
That's that's fantastic. What's it like working in a health food store and studying nutrition?
I love it. It's yeah, obviously I'm very into health and nutrition, and that's kind of what I am hoping to do with my like a career-wise later on in life. So I really like it. It's kind of exactly where I want to be right now. So
And what led you to start working in natural health?
it was a long journey, to be honest. I only recently have really gotten into it a lot. I actually am 3.5 years clean. So my life before was a lot different than it is now. And I spent about 5.5 years maybe in active addiction. My timeline is a little off for that time. But yeah, it was kind of like in my early 20s. And I was having a hard time getting clean here actually in Edmonton. And so my partner at the time and me, he asked for a transfer and we actually ended up moving to Saskatchewan. And that's kind of the fresh start was kind of what I needed and like the push I needed. And I was able to kind of focus on myself and I started some self work, lots of meditating, and kind of led me down to the health and nutrition field that kind of lined up with COVID and the lockdown. So during the lockdown, I had started doing a few courses on Udemy of just about vitamins and supplements, and it kind of got me really interested in there. And I kind of started focusing on that and healthy eating, and yeah. And then when we were able to move back, and I had my daughter, and then yeah, it kind of just led me in here. I had to start doing a lot of like meal prep and trying to make healthy choices, and it just kind of all came together at the end. And I decided that's kind of like what I wanted to do with my life. So
Amazing. And in regards to stepping towards, healing from addiction, was changing your physical location and environment like a big step in that?
yeah, definitely. I was really struggling to get clean here, and I had tried so many times. I had gone to so many different like programs, like rehabs, detox centers, and everything. And so I had all the tools and the mentors and all the like everything, and I just like it wasn't happening for me. I think I just everywhere I went, I just kind of knew where it was. And maybe because subtly, yeah, I just wasn't really there yet. And so changing my environment was just the little kick that I needed. And it was a fresh start. Like as soon as we got there already, I could just tell it was going to be different. And yeah, I really took that to tried to take it to the full advantage. And I started trying to do some self work and self healing. And I started doing a lot of meditating and, yeah, and I kind of had come to terms and realized that I had such high anxiety, and it wasn't like the normal amount of anxiety that people have. It was like I kind of realized that's kind of how I got to that point where I was I was just so anxious like all my childhood, all through school, and like even when I was a little baby, my mom would say that she would take me into like a crowded room and my body would just completely seize up. So it was just realizing that I probably had a really bad hormone imbalance that was making me feel like this. And So I struggled all through school, and ended up like for high school, I skipped most classes. I started drinking, kind of getting into like smoking weed, and like was really disengaged from that just because it was so hard for me to function there and like, do projects and presentations. It just like I couldn't do it. Like my body would just shut down. So I think that's kind of how it led me into addiction, is because it was such like a momentary feeling where like I did feel anxious for a while, and then obviously it would just made it way worse. But yeah, like with all the meditating and when I was in Saskatchewan, I just kind of realized that it was a lot of anxiety that I had. So I started working on that, and I started doing all the kind of like the breath work and meditations that were kind of centered around anxiety, and trying to get a handle on it. And I was doing better. I was able to kind of function a little bit better, but it was a lot of deep breathing before I went in to do anything. I had to, even before, like I was a server at that point, and before I would go into work, like if I worked at 5, I would have to spend like the whole day like in meditation.
Wow.
And it would like kind of bring my heart rate down a little bit, and then like 10 minutes later it would like pop right back up. So yeah, I was really struggling for a really long time with anxiety.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a more anxiety producing thing than like serving in like a busy restaurant. And just as
Yeah.
you're kind of talking about taking yourself out of a particular environment, that you when you're kind of like in the midst of that addiction, there'll be so many places and smells and and people that would like maybe bring up the familiar like thoughts and feelings and behaviors that maybe wrapped around addiction. I don't know. I had a addiction expert on the show a few back in November, and he's talking about your physical dependence and your psychological dependence, and that psychological dependence probably gets fired and wired depending on like the surrounding environment that you're in. And if it's completely familiar and symbolic of an addiction, then it'd be very, very hard to continue to avoid that. You can do so much amazing work, but when you're like physically going to a place or physically seeing another person that kind of like brings those feelings and those thoughts back, it's so challenging to do so. So actually taking yourself out of that environment, it sounds like a really important step, because then what you're seeing and who you're being with, the environment is new. It kind of seems like there's an opportunity to create something different and grow in that kind of unfamiliar unknown, which is like a really positive place to make really good changes from. And in regards to like you were talking about, like your mum was saying that you were like a quite anxious baby. Was there, and you said you also like you worked on that anxiety, and I'm sure you've kind of like gone back through your life as well to kind of check in on that. But was there anything that like happened when you were like a kid in regards to where this may have come from? Because it sounds like this anxiety that you picked up as a young child has ended up like being an unconscious, stable level of anxiety through like your teens and then in your 20s, and then that's mainly like led you into requiring substances to deal with that, because it's an anxiety chronically is a very, very difficult thing to deal with, and it makes a lot of sense that people would look to change their state of consciousness through some sort of substance. So have you ever like had a chat with your mom, or looked back, or had any like sense or feeling that like maybe something happened when you were a baby with the birth or the pregnancy or something like that? I just find those things quite interesting in regards to like a root reason why you might have been an anxious baby.
Yeah, actually, like I've thought about it so much. I've talked to like my mom a lot about it. And that's kind of the only thing that she would give me was like, it was kind of just like from like the time you were a baby. And like, yeah, so I don't know, nothing really stood out as, I think in our family, like anxiety is kind of, there's a few of us that have a lot of anxiety. So I don't know if that's like hereditary or like what that is, but we could never really pinpoint like what it was exactly. Like it was just kind of like, I was always like that.
Interesting. Well, we obviously, we inherit obviously our genetics, but we also inherit behaviors, right? So, maybe it's on some sort of level, one of your other caregivers may have had anxiety that you maybe like picked up on that energy, on that frequency, because obviously as babies, young kids, all they are is energy, right? you can just look at a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and all
Yeah.
they are is just energy and emotion all of the time. So, maybe you kind of picked up on that. But yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if there's any decent research in regards to, anxious adults and tracing that back to an incident, or a particular, maybe like the primary caregiver having levels of, some sort of psychological thing going on, or maybe your mum just went to too many rock concerts in like in her last trimester, perhaps. I don't know.
That was probably it.
So how did you begin to work on the anxiety, and did you start that when you moved into a new environment?
Yeah, so that was like, I think I found out like almost like that was one of the first things when I started kind of meditating and sitting with myself. And I was kind of instantly like, oh yeah, this is like a lot of anxiety. And so I started working on that because I was like, this is so sick of living like that. Like it was such a process to do anything. I was scared to even like leave the house. Like I just had too much anxiety about it. And yeah, but it just didn't, like I was meditating a lot because that was kind of through like the lockdown. And then when I was pregnant, even like on maternity leave. And so I had a lot of time, and I took that time to kind of sit with myself, and it got better, but it wasn't great. And I think that's kind of when I was realizing that it could only take me so far. And like that and that's when I kind of started wondering if I should go see a doctor and like kind of get anti-anxiety. And that was kind of what was getting recommended to me. And so especially after, the birth of my daughter, it stood out more to me, and it became more of a priority to do something about the anxiety, because I just didn't want it to affect her life. And I think even after obviously you give birth, you have heightened levels of anxiety anyways. And so, like it was hard for me to like leave the house or even move around. Like I just had so much anxiety about it. And so I didn't want that to affect her life growing up, and like taking her out of opportunities. And like I was scared to even like take her outside on a walk. So I was like, we can't do this. So I ended up going to a doctor, and I did get a prescription for anti-anxiety. She did explain to me how my hormone levels just seem like they're really off. Because I was kind of telling her about the meditating, and she kind of had said that that would only kind of do so much if like your levels are just like really off. I also now realize I probably wasn't eating the right nutrients either. Like I wasn't really helping myself out in that way. But yeah, so I started the anti-anxieties, and it was rough to get used to them. I remember it was about 2 weeks of like just complete, like at night, I would just sweat through my pajamas, but I was shivering. And that happened for like 2 weeks straight. And then finally, when I got used to it, like I did feel better, but it was very dependent on those anti-anxiety medications. Like,
Do you remember what you were taking?
it was actually an antidepressant. So she said it was an antidepressant that actually works for anxiety. I think it was Pristique,
Okay.
if I'm saying that right. And it helped, but it was just crazy. And I think it stood out to me so much, like all the side effects that were coming, and that she was like, you have to take it at the same time every day. Was like very like, adamant on that. And that was something I noticed, like if I missed it even by like 2 hours or so, I would start feeling tingly like all over my body, and it was instant. And so I started wondering, I'm like, this can't be like super like good for you. This obviously isn't natural. Like this, and it just like, it sucks to be so dependent on that. Like if you do miss it or like forget it, it shouldn't affect your life in that way and just kind of like plummet down. Cause it was instantly like, I would feel anxious. I would, and maybe some of it was in my head, but it was like in my body, I could feel it. Like the imbalance was right back. Yeah.
Well, they're super strong. They're super strong drugs, right? And obviously, you do need to take them at the same time every day. And it's obviously so important to work closely with your doctor if you do need to go on those types of medications, because they can certainly maybe help some people in like maybe in maybe like the short term. So, and obviously the side effects can be quite ridiculous in regards to what else you end up having to deal with. And sometimes it's like the anxiety meds cause you more anxiety, and that's like one of your like wilder symptoms. So just before we like move forward a little bit, so once you got clean from your addiction, your anxiety was still there and present, right? So would you describe your addiction as like a crutch to attempt to like change your state of consciousness to not deal with the anxiety?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And actually I had even before I kind of got had moved into the hard drugs, there was a lot of other things like I think I said like in school like I had started drinking and I started drinking pretty heavily. Then I started smoking weed. I started smoking cigarettes and like a lot of them and I just remember like the relief I would feel like and any situation I would just like
Hmm.
yeah, go out and have a cigarette and it felt like it was helping a little bit, but obviously just very short term and so yeah, and then when I started on like the hard drugs, I think that was because I fell so quickly into it too. I think from the time I first tried to the time that like I wasn't able to make rent or and losing my job was I think about like 2 months.
Hmm.
Like I kind of plummeted really, really quickly. And then after that, I was only able to hold a job, I think, for like a month and a half tops.
Yeah.
Um, but it was, yeah, it was very much a crutch. It was because I could just withdraw from kind of like the outside world. And it was very much I was in my own little world and I didn't really have to leave. I didn't care about my responsibilities. I didn't have to leave the house. I just, yeah, withdrew completely.
Yeah. And with that, with that experience at school, I just want to kind of get an idea of like, were there other kids? Because anxiety is just such a big problem, depression is such a big problem, especially for young kids. And there's obviously so many aspects that go into that. Like, I even think that just like the nutrient deficiency that you were talking about, like, you know, you can be significantly deficient in like magnesium, for example, and it could affect so many different parts of your body. And even just like like chronic dehydration can cause so many underlying health concerns, you know. And we get diagnosed with a pathology and it ends up it could actually just be like you're nutrient deficient and you're like significantly dehydrated, so your body can't, you know, your body's going to manifest disease. Did you have other like um kids or other people in your class, in your school, that were also like dealing with psychological stuff, and would also, you know, turn to cigarette smoking, etc.?
I mean, like I remember that I was definitely one of the more anxious kids in school, but I do remember there was a few others. And I remember even like they would do a presentation and even like when they would start like, I don't know, some people like start crying and stuff. And I wasn't that bad, but looking back, I didn't really realize why. And then now when I look back on it, I'm kind of like, I feel so bad for them because I'm like, oh, that's just like a lot of anxiety and that's more than I had. And so, but it's interesting because it really stands out kind of like the kids that had high anxiety. I think they were always labeled as like, you know, like the shy kids and like,
Hmm.
but I think there's just so much more going on there. Um,
Yeah.
but even the people that I kind of knew kind of in my addiction phase, I'm not sure. I'm sure there was some that were kind of, I feel like everyone is kind of trying to hide or cover up something, maybe not necessarily anxiety, but I think it very much is a crutch for like even like trauma, like just covering up something in your life that you're not ready to face. And I think that's very common in the
Yeah.
addiction kind of world there.
I think it's disturbingly easy as a teen to easily fall into the trap of using substances to change your state of being, state of consciousness, because of an underlying condition, be that anxiety or depression, or just like being in school in general is quite anxiety provoking. We're not like, you know, you're actually like when you're like 17, 18, you're coming to the end of your like, you know, 10 years of going to a school and sitting behind a desk, and you know, like that would cause anybody anxiety in my opinion. But it's yeah, there's not doesn't seem to be a whole lot of uh options for those particular kids that do struggle, and they don't want to obviously stand out and say, hi, yeah, I'm an anxious person, because that's, you know, doing that at that type of an age is a, you know, it's a very vulnerable thing to do. And I don't know if there are teachers in place, organizations in place within the school setting to, you know, allow those kids to come forward and ask for help. I'm not quite sure like how that's changed. You know, there wasn't anything like that when I was a kid, but I don't think there was. I don't know. Maybe there was, like, there's bound to be anxious kids, but it's just like it seems to just get worse and worse and worse through the years. You know, like as we should be um, understanding mental health a lot better. We've got all these amazing alternatives. You'd think that
Mhm.
the psychological conditions of young adults and young kids should be getting better and better and better as we become more educated and learn more and the science evolves. Just doesn't seem the case. And you know, you talked about the lockdowns as well and how unbelievably damaging that is to everybody, let alone kids who are, you know, like quite dependent on hanging out with their friends and being social and doing sports and all these things. Like, we've done a disastrous job in regards to thinking about that before we made like huge cataclysmic decisions. But
Yeah.
we'll move on with that. But I want to talk to you about, because you've got some history with Truehope Canada and our products. So I'd love it if you could tell us how that came into your life and how that like integrates and flows into your addiction recovery and your anxiety recovery.
Yeah. So when I was coming off maternity leave, and I at that point had already started my holistic nutrition program. So I was started looking for a job, and I was like, there's no way I can start serving again. And so I came across the Vitality that was hiring, and I got hired there as the manager. And there's obviously so many products to learn, but one of them was the Truehope products. And it was one of the ones that was kind of brought to my attention when I first was kind of giving the rundown of everything there. And they pointed it out as a mental health multivitamin. And that they kind of just very quickly explained that, like, the kind of the backstory to Truehope, and like what a cool story it is. And yeah, and then I ended up doing there was like the training on the product, and then I was able to try the product. And so at that point, I was still obviously on my anti-anxiety medications, but I was really already curious about what alternatives there were. So I was like just so excited when I heard about it. A little skeptical, I will say. I was like, I'm not sure, like, because I just knew, even because I had the original dose of the anti-anxiety I was on, it actually got upped. So I was on a pretty high dose. And so I was like, I don't know, like, just, you know, like a multivitamin, I'm not sure, like, I'm hopeful, but, and yeah, so I started taking it, and just even like a month later, it was already, I already felt all the benefits. And so coming off the pharmaceuticals, I felt that, like, the kind of the withdrawal from that. But it only lasted about 3 days, but it was the same feeling like when I had like not taking it for an hour or so. So I knew that was from the anti-anxiety meds. But yeah, coming onto the Truehope Empower there was really no side effects to it. And it kind of just seamlessly, like, it just integrated into my life like so well. And I started feeling so good on it, like even better than I did while I was on the anti-anxiety meds. It just, like, it feels more natural. And I don't know. I don't know, even know how to overly explain it. Just like, I feel better. Yeah. I feel more myself. I feel, I don't know, I'm not scared of any situation that's thrown at me or anything like that. I feel really good on it, and it feels natural. And yeah, like, I'm
That's
excited
great.
to keep living on it and see where it takes me.
Yeah, well, I think with anything, there's going to be some sort of like psychological placebo effect, and I think for most people, when they were going to take like an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety med or another antipsychotic medication, there's going to be some sort of level of like anxiety with having to take something like that, because you don't know how long you're going to be on it for. You're obviously on it for a particular reason. There are side effects associated with it, which you'll know. But then when you look to take something that's literally just food in very, very specific bioavailable forms, I feel like the psychological effects of just taking it will be so unbelievably positive, because you know at the end of the day that you are, and you're obviously working in a health food store, so you would assume that it's something that's, you know, a lot more healthy for you. You'd have that, like, that drive and that motivation for it to provide you with like nourishment and energy, rather than being worried about what the pharmaceutical is going to like do to you. Completely different like psychological environment in regards to taking two different things. And I think that once somebody's got the ability to transition towards a natural health product like Empower Plus, their whole road to recovery is kind of like it's floodlit. It's lit up, rather than, like, I want to say, like a narrow dark tunnel if someone was having to like go through and expect a pharmaceutical to like cure or treat or even heal their anxiety or depression in the long term. I hope that made sense. But that's just a beautiful way that you've been able to have that accessible. And you were talking about the education piece as well. So yeah, that's our Truehope University that is available to all of our retailers across Canada. We've created a very like easy, kind of fun educational tool about all of our products, a little bit about like who we are and what we do. And we try to build on that like every year to create more information, because yeah, as you say, like we also gave you we give our graduates like a free product to try themselves. And I love that you're skeptical. That's a super important trait to be a human, to be a successful human being. And but you had the courage to try it yourself with an open mind. And what was your experience with using the product and coming off medications? Tell us about that.
Yeah, like it was fairly easy. And I actually had started out with kind of the lower dose of Empower, and I still already felt like the benefits of it. So I am now on, because I think it's either you can do 4 a day or 6 a day, I believe. So I had started with the lower one, and I still felt fine, but I had moved up to the higher dose too. But I love it too, just because I'm so busy too, and I just know that it's just giving my body the nutrients it needs. So even if I am not getting it or missed a little bit from what I was eating, like it kind of fills in the gaps there too. So it makes me happy in that way too, to know that my body's getting the nutrients it needs. And it was, yeah, there's no side effects or anything to it. And actually even yesterday, so I normally would take some in the morning, and then some I would bring to work and do in kind of like the late afternoon. And I totally forgot yesterday. So I didn't end up taking them until like 8 o'clock at night, and I felt fine the whole day. There was no side effects. Like, I didn't get the tingles that I did from if I forgot to take my other anti-anxiety. So, and then, yeah, today woke up, felt fine. Like there was no like disrupt or like any spouts of anxiety that I had felt because I had missed it at all, which I was really excited about, because that was huge with the other ones. Yeah. And it just, yeah, I don't know. It was so easy, and it literally just, it makes me feel like just so much happier too. And it's just giving your body the nutrients it needs to kind of stabilize itself on its own, rather than giving the hormones that you need to not feel anxious. It's just giving like the building blocks so your body can do it itself, and it's just way more natural. And I feel very good about that.
Yeah, I've always thought that true healing and true treatment and even curing certain things is about providing your body the ability to do it for you, rather than attempting to change its biochemistry and enhancing the production of something, or reducing or even eliminating the production of something, which is primarily what pharmaceuticals do. But if you're giving your body like such a nutrient dense bioavailable form of very complex, very deliberate forms, very deliberate dosages and combinations, when you're giving your body that on a consistent basis, then it can just, like as you say, use the building blocks to go out and do all the amazing things that it wants to do, because your body is designed to make you feel awesome. It's designed to heal. It's designed to repair. And if you're giving your body something like Empower Plus, this broad spectrum amazing micronutrient, on a consistent basis, then you're basically just getting out of the way and allowing your body to do what it does best, rather than really trying to do something, because we can certainly try too much and there can be stress that comes with that. But as you say, like you can miss a day, you can miss a morning, and you're not going to obviously feel the side effects that you would with like a pharmaceutical drug, which is like, very like chemical dependent. And at the end of the day, we're using natural ingredients that your body has evolved to consume and use and utilize and get around the body very, very quickly. So it's like so familiar for the body to take these products in and use them, because we have the internal, endogenous chemistry and biology to do that. So it's just a wonderful thing. And have you ever had a period of time where you've noticed when you're not taking it? For me, like if I miss a day or I miss a couple of days, I know that my like agitation level rises a little bit, and my patience with not just my kids, but with myself and anything, like I just like get a little bit more impatient, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm impatient because I've not taken my Empower Plus today, because I know it's so important to me. Do you ever notice anything like that?
I didn't. I actually didn't notice anything. That's what I was so surprised about, was I didn't notice at all. Like it was like I had taken it. But it was, yeah, I don't know. It just totally, like the other ones are just totally masking, I think, the issue, where Empower just faces it, and it just, yeah, completely.
Yeah, it's probably all that meditation that you've been doing is certainly serving you better than me. That's great. When you have people come in, and you recommend Empower Plus. Like, what are the conversations like? What are people asking you? What type of conditions may they have? Like, when you end up recommending that product, what is usually the conversation you have?
Well, honestly, like the most common thing that people are coming in looking for right now is like something to help with like mental health or stress. I don't know if it's everything that's going on right now or
Yeah.
just probably just a little mix of everything. But so that is one of the most common things that people are coming in to look for. And I hear the same thing a lot. And I've had people say that they're supposed to be on anti-anxieties and they don't want to take it. And then I'm just like, oh, I have the perfect product for you. So that's like that one is an easy kind of sell on it. But even if anyone that's like just looking for something to like relax or anything like that, I love showing them Empower. Just because it just kind of targets everything. So because you never really know. And I think there's so many different, like, there's different herbs and you can take different like amino acids and everything to kind of try and get yourself to relax and combat anxiety. But everybody is different. And if you don't know exactly what it is that you're deficient in that's causing you your stress and anxiety, you'll have to try like so many different products to then but then still, I feel like you're just kind of more or less covering it up, especially with certain ones. It's just like yeah, but yeah, I love showing Empower just because it's such a great product and it sells itself. Even the founder story is amazing. And there's so many people with so much anxiety. I've come to learn. And I don't know if it's that people are talking about it more, but I feel like more and more that's what I have people coming in. And so I love pointing that out. I kind of give them the rundown. We have all the pamphlets. A lot of them go home and check it out themselves. And they always come back like being blown away by like the story behind it. And then we have a few customers that come in and they know exactly what they're looking for. Cause it just seems like anyone that has tried Empower stands by it. And they always have such great things to say. Like I've never heard anyone be like, it didn't really do much for me or anything like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, I've been working for the company for about 5 years now, and I have the honor and the pleasure of hearing people's feedback from social media or from our podcast, from our website. And yeah, like as you talk about more and more people coming in to get things to support their mental health, I get to see the statistics of people coming onto our website, and this month has been ridiculous in regards to how many people have got questions, right? They are going, either walking into a store and asking questions like, how can I support my mental health? How can I avoid going on medications? How can I come off them? And people are also asking those questions into search engines and finding us, which is just amazing, because we want to be an alternative, complementary choice for people who do have a lot of motivation and passion and power about wanting to reclaim their health back. And I think everyone knows that they don't, whether it's a stigma thing or they've seen people go onto antipsychotics and not had a good time, whatever the reason may be for them. It's so amazing that we do have this as an option for people. And not only do we have an incredible backstory, not only do we have 35 medical publications, which is it's the most studied micronutrient formula on the planet. We have our Truehope University, so all our retailers across the country are so unbelievably educated, and if they need to ask a question or if there's something they don't know, we're super available to be able to do that. And that's always evolving. I feel like our reps are just an unbelievable team of beautiful human beings that are available at any point to help customers one-on-one if they have questions, whether that be a big thing or a little thing. And if we don't know the answer, we will find that out for them. Just so many incredible things that makes Truehope such a phenomenal, remarkable company. And yeah, I just honestly wish that we were a first option for a lot of people when they start thinking about, like, I might need to take something to support my mental health, be that a drug or something more natural. And it's amazing we've got people like you, having conversations every single day, and that you are clearly invested in the company, the story, the products. You've taken them yourselves. You've walked the walk there. That's just amazing. For those people who are on some sort of medication to support their mental health, because Empower Plus has been studied for schizophrenia, bipolar, ADHD, PTSD, depression, anxiety, you name it. It's been researched for. So we've got this like really, really broad spectrum, supportive nature with this just one product. But for those people who are in pharmaceuticals who want to heal and don't want to be on them forever and want to come off them, and working with health practitioners is important, what would you say to those people who do want to heal and come off?
That there is definitely another option. I know that was what I was so skeptical, like with all the side effects, and I'm sure there's so many other people that have had the same experience, that, and you kind of think like, this can't be right, this can't be that great for my body. That, yeah, there's a great option. It's just like, it's all just vitamins and minerals, like everything that your body needs anyways. So it's nothing crazy, it's nothing scary, it's just exactly what your body needs in the ratio that it needs. And that's great. Like, it's, you can, I don't know, it worked for me. So like, you can definitely like get off your pharmaceuticals if that's something that you're interested in. And understandably, like, it's not really available to everyone right now. So if, yeah, like, but if it is something that you're wondering about, or you've ever wondered about, that, yeah, Empower is a great, great choice. And it's, yeah, I can't believe how like good I feel on it. I can't believe that I don't have anxiety anymore, because that was like such a huge part of my life. So it's just like, is sometimes still like bizarre to me. I'll just like be doing something, I'm like, this is so funny, because I would never have done this like ever before. But yeah, and it just opens up your life, and it just like, yeah, it's so much better.
Yeah,
Really.
such an amazing success story, and you obviously you've gone through some serious stuff for a long period of time. And if this product can support you, then it can certainly support people who are just looking to something to just manage their stress, manage the everyday anxieties and depressive things that come up for kind of everybody. We've all got a connection with all of those different things. So
Hmm.
it's just a great testament to how this product can support all those different people. And yeah, as
Yeah.
you say, like, there is another option. And I think for a lot of people, when they do go to a doctor's office with the intention of getting something for their mental health, they feel that that's their last option and that's their last resort, because they may have tried many, many different things. Like you tried lots of different things as well, but it just like, it wasn't that like one thing that kind of like broke through the roof to give you that, like that path towards the light. So
Yeah.
certainly do have other options out there. It's healing your mental health, healing your physical health, healing your spiritual health, whatever that might be. It's a journey. It takes work, it takes intention, it takes becoming conscious of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And you have to be in it to do it. And it's not just about taking a natural health product. It's it's also about looking after what you eat, moving your body well, getting sunlight, all these things. And I just feel that Empower Plus is the like foundational tool to allow your body to give you the energy to even think about doing all those other things that are going to support your mental health. And super, super valuable. Do you share your actual personal experience in store with people?
I actually, lately I have a little bit more. I think it's still something that I'm getting more used to. For a
Yeah.
while, I kind of like would hide that about myself, and like wasn't sure how people would react to, especially in certain situations. But more and more, I have been more comfortable with it, and I find it does help people, like especially to know like the backstory, instead of just being like, oh, this is a great product. Like hearing that I take it myself and like everything I've been through, it's actually, I've had very positive conversations around that. And it feels like almost people are more willing to trust me when I open up a little bit about that. Cause yeah, so more and more, and I think it is helpful. It's helpful for me too, to talk about as well and share my experience. And if I'm ever able to help someone get through a similar situation or anything like that, that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super brave and courageous thing to do, because not everyone's comfortable with that, right? Whether that's they don't want to share that part of their life, or they don't want to revisit it too much.
Yeah.
But there's obviously, I think there's a lot of pride and power that you can take for recognizing that you have done the work to overcome that past personality and that past person. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think what's amazing about like having this conversation with you right now and having podcasts, having long form discussions about this, and me asking you questions about your story, people are going to be able to relate to what you're saying, because it's got an emotional impact, as an emotional frequency that we can all connect with. I just think, yeah, I think the long form storytelling podcast environment really allows people to listen to your story, the emotional aspects of that. They can connect with it so well, and they can understand intuitively that you are not lying, you are being genuine, you're being authentic, and people appreciate that, right? Because that builds trust, that builds rapport. And I think that sharing that like on the floor in your store is a really, really great way to get people to, you know, to connect with you. And that's what that's what we're trying to create with this podcast, is connecting with people who have these beautiful, true, authentic stories that give people the thought to even think about like trying to change their situation through all these amazing tools that we do have, because there are many other options to start healing your mental health other than the conventional means of just taking a drug for the rest of your life.
And I would say it is easier too. Like, it took me so long to go to the doctor's office because it made me so anxious. So that's another great thing about Empower, is you don't actually have to do that. You could even order it online if you had to or wanted to, or there's of course all the stores that have it as well. But that took me like a year to get myself into a doctor's office alone. So I know there's probably some other people that are struggling with that as well.
Do you carry and recommend any of our other products at Vitality?
Yeah, we have a few of them. We have the Inositol as well, and then we have the Free Minos, which are both actually. I've had more people coming in right now looking for the Inositol or products like that. So that was one that I've got to recommend a little bit recently, actually, and I've had some interest and people excited about it as well.
Yeah, I find the inositol so good for blood sugar balancing. My 1-year-old's got he has a hypoglycemia issue, and the inositol just works absolute wonders for him. And when the kids are being a bit too crazy, I'll go get the inositol bottle, and they love it. They line up for it, and it chills them out real quick. And it's also just amazing for sleep as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to try that on my kid.
Yeah, give it a go for sure. I think that's perfect. I'm so happy that you came onto the show to share your story with us. We've had some technical issues in the past with trying to get this working, but this has been perfect. If people have got any like questions for you, if they want to connect, where can they do that, if you feel comfortable with that, of course?
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're in Edmonton, obviously I do work at the Hawkstone Vitality, so definitely you can stop in and ask any questions. If not, you can feel free to send me an email as well. It's just sarah.meister1@hotmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being open with that to answer any questions. And yeah, of course, if you're in Edmonton, you should go check out that Vitality Health Food Store, because there's amazing people like Sarah working there every day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. And I think this is going to be very beneficial for a lot of people to, start thinking about those alternative options. But Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, that is it for this episode of Truehope Podcast, the official podcast for Truehope Canada. I'll leave some information in the show notes in regards to Vitality Health Foods and how to connect with Sarah. I'll put her email up there for you. But don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. You can leave us a little review on iTunes if you wish. But that is it for this week. We'll see you soon.